You're watching The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God. We are The Breakfast Club. It's time for front page news. And we got a special guest hanging out with us.
Yes, a lady who's been bringing the smoke all month because Mercury is in retrograde.
Shut up.
All right.
We have Angela Rye in the building.
That's a better greeting. Thank you.
Good morning. Now,
Good morning.
What are we talking about, Yeezy?
Well, we are going to talk about Donald Trump. He just revoked ex-CIA Director John Brennan's security clearance, and I guess he's trying to revoke a lot of people's security clearance.
What does that even mean?
Okay, so your security clearance is how you have access to classified information, particularly when you serve in the administration. Most times, folks don't need security clearances anymore after they leave the administration if they're not like defense contractors or contracting with the NSA, touching actual security or classified information. So it doesn't mean a lot. It's just demeaning. You know, it just undermines someone's authority. This is someone who served the country for decades, and he revoked his security clearance because he's mad about a tweet, because he's mad that he's been a constant critic of how dangerous Donald Trump is. So Brennan was the first one, to your point, Angela. They're also talking about James Clapper, who called into CNN yesterday talking about this. Susan Rice, Lisa Page, everyone who's a Trump critic. The one person who they're leaving out, Michael Flynn, who's the former national security advisor, who's been indicted and pled guilty to lying to the FBI.
So Donald Trump moving like a person on Twitter. You just want to cancel somebody, basically.
Yeah, but I think the difference
It's,
is
just
cancel culture.
it's more of a statement to
it's
try to
an
embarrass you.
international embarrassment, Angela. And it's not just cancel culture on Twitter. He actually can make people face real consequences.
It's high-level cancel culture. He can really cancel
High-level?
people. That's all.
High-level cancel culture.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so basically if you're against him, you're not allowed to have clearance to anything, and he's going to embarrass you publicly in front of everybody.
At least that's the threat, right? He's using Mr. Brennan as an example, and I think the challenge is, what does that really say about our First Amendment rights, right? It's like you have First Amendment privileges so long as you're not
Does
criticizing
Omarosa have
Donald Trump.
clearance?
No. I'm kidding.
Hey, by the way, if we had that kind of access, we'd do it too, though.
What's that?
If we could just delete your Twitter page when you talk spicy.
Absolutely.
I kind of would do that.
Absolutely. I try now. I'll be calling Tom now.
I might do that.
Well,
telling
Angela
you.
Rye said we're going to talk to her more when we come back. We got to ask about Omarosa and everything that's going on political in this world that we don't
Omarosa
know
asked you
about.
where you got your braids done. She want to
Shut
hit
up.
the same kind.
No,
You
she
gonna give it a
don't.
She's
you
with
gonna give it a
us now.
plug? You not gonna give it a plug?
Now, let's talk Omarosa a little bit.
Oh, Lord.
What's going on
Is
with
it
her?
illegal for her to have recorded in the White House and play these recordings now?
I believe the biggest challenge is you are not at all supposed to bring in any type of electronic device into the Situation Room. There are literally like cubby holes where you're supposed to put your devices.
No phone,
no
nothing.
cell phone.
Nothing, because you can. They're devices that can intercept conversations for people overseas. It's a huge national security risk, which is why she will probably face some type of.
But they don't check you, do they? Pat you down and really check?
No, they don't pat
It's
you
an
down.
honor system.
Yes,
So you just
yes.
put it in yourself because you know that's the rule.
But here's the thing: there's no honor among thieves, and we've learned that with this administration. So
There's no honor among reality stars.
there's that too.
Yes.
Yes.
So what about
Thieves.
Donald Trump calling her a dog or a crazed, crying lowlife and those things? Were you offended that he called her a dog, or is she completely somebody that we don't care about?
Does black people support her? Should we be riding with her?
You laughed a little bit.
I did not laugh. I just.
Why are you smiling now?
Because like, you know what? Here's what I feel. I truly am conflicted about this. I do not think that there's any space for Donald Trump to call a black woman a dog. But this is someone who like betrayed us in the worst kind of way. Like the fact that she's talking about this tape, right? This N-word tape. You guys remember the N-word tape came out, the allegations about the N-word tape came out during the campaign. You not only campaigned for Donald Trump after that N-word tape allegation came out, you went into the White House. So like you
And
want
they
me to
asked her about the N-word tape, and she said no, it didn't exist.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
She's on tape saying I don't know what you're talking about. That's not real. But now you're coming out and you want to like be down for the culture. You're not really being down for the culture. You're trying to sell books.
Absolutely.
So Omarosa is being true to self. So it's hard for me to defend someone who's never looked out for our best interests. As a matter of principle, should anyone ever call a black woman a dog? No. He should just called her the B word.
Yes, that's what I
Just
said.
playing. I'm just playing. I'm just playing.
That's what he wanted to say. That's what he
Exactly.
wanted to say. And technically, dogs are more loyal to their people than Omarosa was to hers.
Well, I mean, she's loyal to self. So
Yes.
she's loyal to some people, maybe to her husband too.
I just
And,
want you
and
to-
dogs will turn on you, by the way.
It depends
That's
what
true. I
type of
did
dog.
get jumped
Depends
out
what
by
kind
a
of dog.
dog. That's
yeah,
true.
dogs will turn
Depends
on
what
you.
type of dog. So should we support her? Should we ride with her? Should we allow her
No.
back in or not?
Should we read her book?
No.
I
That's what she
definitely am
wants to
not
do.
reading her book. I'm definitely not reading her book. She's definitely not back into me. And then the other two women who are on tape, you guys heard the tape where they're talking about the N-word tape, right? So this is, again, during the campaign, there are 3 black women on that tape talking about he's embarrassed, he said it. Katrina Pearson, who you all may have remembered from during the campaign, constantly being a spokesperson for Donald Trump. And then Lynn Patton, who Donald Trump has had on his team for several years, was a part of like the Trump Foundation work. 3 black women, a Twitter follower actually pointed this out to me. 3 black women defending and involved in some type of cover up for the N-word tape of Donald Trump. And they all stayed.
Well, like you always say, all your skin folk,
Ain't your kinfolk.
there you go.
Well, let's get into your CNN appearance then, since we're talking about that and diversity in the White House.
Yes.
Right? And people don't want to work for a racist. I believe that to be true.
Yeah.
But do you think that if people have the opportunity to go work in the White House, people of color, should they take that opportunity to try to make change, or should we just completely boycott working in the White House?
Well, I think I really want to take a step back here because I think it's important. So this, of course, also surfaced with Omarosa's book. She talked about the lack of diversity. But she was someone who, you all have probably experienced this, also blocker culture, right? There are people who help
me.
Yeah, that's right. I'm the only one. It can't be anybody else. Not the first, but the first and the only, right? So Omarosa was paid a senior level staff. Was paid the highest rate you can be paid as a White House staffer.
$180,000.
Yeah, 100. Well, it's 179.5. But yes, and the thing that's crazy about it is you were a very senior level paid staffer. But you sat in EEOB, which is not in the White House. It's not in the West Wing. It's in a building across the street from the White House. So you didn't have senior level access even. So let's start there. The second
That
piece.
sounds like janitor quarters.
Not exactly. There are some other like people who influence what happens, but you're not that senior sitting
Gotcha.
in EEOB, right? The other piece of this is, since then, there definitely is not anyone paid at that level. There's definitely not a black person shaping policy sitting in the White House. So to me, it's egregious. The one thing I will acknowledge, Sarah Huckabee Sanders in the press briefing where folks are asking about it, there's a woman, I don't know which news organization she's from, but Sarah Huckabee Sanders retorts and she's like, well, it looks like your news organization. So was it a pivot for her? Was it a pivot for her? Yes. But is it a reality that needs to be faced? Absolutely. And I think the difference is, when you're talking about this White House, you have people who are shaping policy like Stephen Miller, this guy that looks like a cartoon character, a very evil looking one. But he's shaping immigration policy, came from Santa Monica High School, but is like the worst kind of bigot. His uncle just wrote an op-ed about how, he doesn't know where this belief system came from. You have bigots shaping policy, so should we help to maybe move the needle a little bit? Yes, but what can you really do? Like, should I go work for the KKK if I can help them not be so racist? Probably not so much.
Was Obama's White House diverse? I don't know.
I think it was definitely more diverse. You had someone, Valerie Jarrett, who was a senior advisor to the president, assistant to the president, and what the actual title is called, who sat in the West Wing, who was in all of the meetings, was in the Situation Room with the president regularly. You had other senior level black people in the White House, in agencies, and in the cabinet, of course. This is the least diverse cabinet in decades. This is the least diverse White House staff in decades.
Well, it's called the White House, all right? And that's what they're trying to bring it back to.
They are definitely trying to bring it back to a real White House.
Yes.
But
We got more with Angela Rye when we come back. And Angela, I work with a racist that hates beige men.
he's talking about you.
Yeah, I'm talking about you.
Okay.
See, so it's hard. I try to
that
change them
back.
every day, and it never works.
I'm a beige bigot.
You're a beige bigot.
We have more with
You gonna
Angela
get trolled
Rye
today.
when we
A
come
red
back.
bone racist.
800-585-1051.
Your alliteration's on point today.
This guy. Now, Angela, I haven't seen you in a long time, so I haven't asked you this in a long time.
Oh, God,
No,
come
we
on.
don't.
Come
No,
on,
you should
Envy.
ask. You should ask.
How close are we from impeachment?
We're not.
I'm not talking to you.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't need your energy, whatever energy you have right now. We don't need that. No, so I don't know that we're close.
Oh my goodness, we were closer before.
I know. I thought we were.
Right.
But I think that here now, given the revocation of security clearances, given the fact that he continues to troll Robert Mueller in this investigation, calling it a witch hunt, given the fact that he's trolling his Attorney General Jeff Sessions on this issue and the fact that he ever recused himself, I think that this looks a lot like obstruction of justice. So if there wasn't anything at the beginning, I feel like there should be something now. The other challenge that we have is we don't know when or if Donald Trump is going to sit down with Robert Mueller to actually do an interview. So that's the other piece of this. I think that if he sat down with him, it's game over.
Right.
Because he can't, he says dumb stuff even on Twitter, despite White House counsel, despite what his lawyers say. We know there are a number of people around him. You know, Paul Manafort's trial is now gone to the jury. So the jury's deliberating in that trial. We know that there were Russians indicted for interfering with the election. We now know as well that we talked about Michael Flynn earlier, who was indicted and pled guilty to lying to the FBI. And now Michael Cohen, that's his lawyer, who has taped him. Why does everybody tape people anyway?
Because that's the era we live in.
And who knows how many other tapes are floating around out there.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But so you have two Michaels, Michael Flynn, Michael Cohen. There are a lot of people around him, right? If this were Barack Obama, this would be like 97 impeachable offenses. So I'm just trying to figure out when the white folks in the House and the Senate are catch up, which is another reason why diversity matters, right? Like maybe if the House and the Senate was more diverse, this would have been an easy get.
I still think we're doing too much anti-Trump rhetoric and not enough, hey, midterm elections are this year. Who's the candidate for 2020 for president? Like, we're not doing enough of pro whatever.
I hear you on that. I think the challenge is there's so much anti coming at us. So I think, for example,
it's a distraction. I think it is keeping us distracted from what we really should be focusing on.
But yes and no. So part of it is that now some of the things that are distraction are getting more attention. So you think, for example, Andrew Gillum, who we all know is running for governor in Florida. Andrew had to kind of shift messaging off of what he was saying he was going to do for Florida to address Marquise McGlaughlin. Right? Yeah, Marquise McGlaughlin getting shot in a parking lot. Stand your ground, which is a real challenge. Of course, this man was indicted or arrested for manslaughter. And then you have another situation, which is the Trayvon docuseries is out talking again about stand your ground. Lucy McBath, who's in Georgia, but is Jordan Davis's mother, the white guy that shot Jordan Davis in that parking lot of the convenience store in Florida, ran for Congress, won her primary, won the runoff. All of these things are front and center. So Andrew shifted his campaign for a moment to address stand your ground, calling on Rick Scott to issue an emergency stay. Is stand your ground a distraction? Yes, but it's one where we're losing our lives over.
Right.
If you think about what's happening in voting rights all over the country, you have voter purges, millions of voters purged in 2014 and 2016. God only knows how many this year. 363,000, I believe, in Georgia, where we have another black candidate running for governor. That's dangerous. And so we can say it's a distraction, but they're distractions that deserve our undivided attention.
I'm glad you mentioned Andrew, too. He's 6 more days. He's trying to reach a fundraising deadline. So go to andrewgillum.com and donate some money to his campaign.
Yes.
Now, Donald Trump, of course, it's going to be time for people to try to reelect him. What can we do to stop that? I mean, he's
get Angela Rye to run for president.
Absolutely.
With her
saying
braids.
Unemployment rate is down. Like, he's saying that black people love him. Like, what do we do to make sure
Kanye's
Donald
very
Trump
supportive of him.
is
Come on
not
now.
in that office again?
Wait till them red Yeezys come out with MAGA on the side, though.
If that's real, I might body slam you right
Well,
now.
Angela has on Yeezys with her Adidas.
These are not Yeezys. These are Stan Smith socks. I will never rock Yeezys.
Them red desert rats
Why
coming.
won't you rock Yeezys?
Because I'm mad at him. My feelings are hurt.
Charlamagne rocks them every day.
I don't wear them every day, but they very comfortable.
He got on jail sandals right now. Oh, it's Donkey of the Day
Donkey of the Day
slippers.
slippers.
I don't like those. Would you ask me?
Why don't you wear Yeezys? And also about Trump getting reelected.
Angela loved Kanye.
No, I did. I missed the old Kanye. And
Yes.
all I will tell you is I'm really disappointed. My feelings are really hurt. Not only because of his support of Donald Trump, but I think it's dangerous. I think it's really dangerous. I don't know how much influence he's going to have on the culture in supporting Donald Trump, but just the fact that he doesn't understand how dangerous that support is and how much his voice matters to the community. I'm mad as hell, and yes, I've been using Kanye lyrics against him because it hurts my feelings.
And you go against the grain, but you can't go against the grain just for the sake of going against what everybody expects you to do.
Yeah.
Just because. That's a silly reason.
I wonder if he thinks that that's what he's doing. I don't know that he's fully contemplated the consequences. You did the interview.
Yeah, I think sometimes our gift can be our curse, and I think his gift is the fact that he does go against the grain. When everybody goes left, he goes right. It's just now he went right, literally.
Yeah, that's too bad. But so wait, Envy, you asked a question about stopping Donald Trump's election. I got caught up on Kanye.
It's scary because it seems like people are supporting him more than ever, and it's very scary.
I wonder if it's support or if it's indifference. And to me, I think that indifference is more dangerous, right? Like, we know that voter apathy has plagued not only our community, but America writ large for some time. And you would think that right now, given all that we're experiencing, we just talked about experiencing all the distractions that we see right now, like, okay, now's the time to be woke and then act on whatever that woke is. But I don't know that it's having that effect. If people feel like no matter what they do, at every turn they're going to be stopped. At every turn, voting rights are getting, more restrictive and, the more suppressive laws are coming out so that you can't vote. They see incarceration rates up. I was just in Wisconsin campaigning for Malin Mitchell, who did not, unfortunately, win his primary.
What up, Malin?
But I learned that in Wisconsin, the most incarcerated zip code in the country for black men is in Milwaukee.
Really?
In the country.
I wonder if Sheriff David Clark had anything to do with that.
And some of it has to do with just weed charges.
That's
you know
crazy.
what I mean? And so it's like, what are the things that we could be proactively working on to ensure our real freedom? One of those things could be recreational weed. People joke about it a lot because they're like, well, people are just trying to get high. That's not it. We actually need to get brothers out of jail who are like sitting in jail while other people are now making money in this booming industry. It's like
And Wisconsin is only 7% black, so that's crazy that in Milwaukee.
In Milwaukee, the highest incarcerated zip code in the country.
But what you're doing right now is discussing solutions, and that's what I think a presidential candidate needs to do in 2020. You can't just run on the fact that you're anti-Trump or you're the opposite of Trump. Like, what are you actually going to do for us?
Yeah. Well,
That's how, you're not getting my vote just because you're the opposite of Trump.
Yeah, but if the opposite of Trump means undoing some of his damage, like if you look at what the right wing supports about him, a lot of them hated Barack Obama. Most of his first 200 plus days in office were spent repealing and undoing a lot of the regulations that the Obama administration.
That's how Trump won.
place.
People that were anti-Obama, really.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but to be the opposite of Trump, all you gotta do is be smart.
So then I would vote for somebody who's the opposite of Trump. Why wouldn't I?
That ain't nothing.
I'll take that over
I can
Trump
do
all
that.
day long.
But it also could be a proactive agenda where you're saying, okay, well, there's now a capital gains benefit, and all of these folks who can barely afford to keep their lights on, I want to work to ensure that there's a livable wage for you. That is an anti-Trump agenda that still has a proactive solution. I think it could be both.
Well, we appreciate you for joining us.
And listen, I want to give Gina Loudon Donkey of the Day this morning. So will you do it for me?
You should.
No, I want you to do it.
Okay.
You'll do that?
Yeah.
So what do I have to
Angela,
do?
who you giving that donkey to?
We're going to figure it out.
Well, hold on. When we come back, we got rumors, and then, of course, we're going to give Donkey of the Day.
I'm going to toss it to
Rye.
Angela Rye. Let her give some of that Mercury retro braid smoke to Gina Loudon this morning.
All right. Well, keep it locked. Rumors up next is The Breakfast Club. Good morning.